Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Spectator Sports. I'm your host Sebastian Fonseca. We're back in the US. Had a great time in Europe, went to Amsterdam and Paris in particular. Just acquired a new Ajax scarf for my collection. Had the time of my life, but it's great to be back home. Plenty of NBA action that I was able to take some notes on in my weekend return. I wanted to go over some NFL debate topics and plenty of crazy action in soccer, so stay tuned. For this segment, I wanted to talk about the top 10 wide receiver duos in the NFL. There was so much player movement in this offseason, from QBs to wide receivers to defensive players. At 10, I decided to go with Michael Thomas and Chris Olave from New Orleans. This is a new duo. Obviously, we don't know what the capabilities are. Michael Thomas has been out of the lineup last year in 2021, and now he's going to be fully healthy to return in 2022. Fellow Ohio State product Chris Olave, who the Saints traded up for, now joins that wide receiving corps, and I think he's going to learn quite a bit from Michael Thomas, and I'm excited to see what that duo can provide for quarterback Jameis Winston. At 9, there's a trio technically involved with this team with the Arizona Cardinals, but just for the sake of just doing duos, I wanted to put at number 9 DeAndre Hopkins and Hollywood Brown. Both are very talented receivers. Hollywood is more of the burner. He's going to take the top off your defense, whereas DeAndre Hopkins is going to be that X receiver. If you just throw it up to him, he's going to go up and get it. Excellent red zone threat. It's really just a matter of him staying healthy. He's been dinged up the last couple of years in his time in Arizona, and now with the start this year, he's going to be missing 6 games to suspension, but still, when those two are on the field, I would say that that's a one hell of a duo for Kyler Murray. At 8, this has been a little bit of a sneaky duo, but I definitely have to give him credit. Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf for Seattle. Of course, they've been benefits of having Russell Wilson as their quarterback, and we're going to see exactly how either Drew Lock or Geno Smith will be able to kind of recreate that chemistry, but them together specifically have been some of the most productive duos in Seattle. Tyler Lockett, even though he doesn't have the accolades in terms of Pro Bowls or All-Pro teams, he's been consistent, being the deep threat for Seattle, definitely giving you at least 1,000 yards receiving. DK is just a freak of an athlete. He can run the routes really well, catch an inside slant, and really take off and go with it. So it's going to be exciting to see how they really help Seattle move forward in this new era post Russell Wilson. At 7, I have Devontae Smith and AJ Brown. Again, this is a new duo. They have not played a snap together, but given the fact that Devontae has had such a successful rookie campaign, and we've known that AJ Brown has been an established receiver, I think that they're going to pose a lot of threats for opposing defenses, especially if you don't have 2 good lockdown corners, especially for any one of these lineups. It's just going to be so much trouble to guard them. AJ Brown, as soon as he gets the ball, he's a threat to take it to the house, or at least pull his way through with just his sheer strength. And I would say one of the best route runners, at least in the younger generation, has got to be Devontae Smith. He won a Heisman anyways based off just his route running ability, just to get that separation. So watch out for this duo. And at 6, I have Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. Obviously, Tyreek is the better of the two. He's the fastest receiver in this league, and Jalen Waddle is definitely more of a slot guy, but he can be put anywhere and really just be a threat to catch it and go which way. And that's only the reason why I'm putting this duo so low on this list. It was just strictly ranking like receivers. Obviously, Tyreek Hill is a top 5 receiver, but this is going to really help Tua's development in Miami. And it's going to be exciting to see if they can close that gap with the Buffalo Bills in the AFC East. At 5, I have newly acquired Davante Adams and Hunter Renfrow for the Vegas Raiders. Obviously, Davante Adams has been proven to be the best receiver in the NFL. Hunter Renfrow is strictly a slot receiver, but and due to that, if again, dissimilarly like with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, I would put them higher. It's just that the number 2 is just not quite as good as the number 1, which is still a lot to say. Hunter Renfrow is just coming off a 1,000-yard season, so they're going to do a lot of damage and pose so many problems for opposing defenses. So Raiders got a good duo, and not to mention the other weapons that they have with like Waller and Josh Jacobs out of the backfield. At 4, I'm putting Cooper Kupp and Allen Robinson for the Los Angeles Rams. Robinson's now coming in on a new deal for the Rams. Even last year, when they had OBJ as essentially the 2 receiver coming in after the injury to Robert Woods, OBJ really stepped up, especially in the postseason, and he still remains unsigned at this point in the offseason. But Cooper Kupp has been the best receiver last year, and it's going to be really interesting to see how they integrate Allen Robinson into this Rams offense. So at 4, I'm putting Cooper Kupp and Allen Robinson. At 3, I'm putting Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. They have been a very productive duo ever since Tom Brady has arrived in Tampa Bay. But even before then, Mike Evans is actually the first receiver to come out of the league and have a 1,000-yard season in each year he's been playing. And even if he's missed injury, he's still been able to put up enough numbers, at least receiving yards wise, to eclipse the 1,000-yard mark. So he's very consistent. Of course, Godwin is coming off an ACL injury that was late in the year. But given the fact that this duo has produced already, and we know what they're going to bring to the table with Tom Brady, I'm going to put them as the top 3 wide receiver duo in the NFL. At number 2, I'm going to have Jamar Chase and T. Higgins for Cincinnati. This duo was just so productive last season, and they're just scraping the surface. I mean, Jamar Chase, enough said. He shredded defense after defense last year. Even if he's guarded, the Bengals can deploy so many other weapons. Even Tyler Boyd has been really effective. He's kind of been the veteran receiver in this draft. He's kind of been the veteran receiver in this receiving corps, but T. Higgins, who was their 2nd-round pick in 2020, has been really effective as well. So that duo is going to be so potent going forward in 2022. And with Joe Burrow especially just getting more chemistry, the LSU connection is second to none. And another year, hopefully with a stronger offensive line than last year, he's just going to have only more time to slice and dice defenses. So I would say they're the 2nd best receiving duo in the NFL. And at number 1, I am putting Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen. These 2 have come onto the scene only for 2 years, but Justin Jefferson's been a walking 100 yards per game kind of guy, off of probably like 7 to 8 catches. He's going to get about 10 to 12 targets a game. But Thielen's been a number 1 too, even before when he was working with Stephon Diggs for Minnesota. Always been highly productive, has multiple Pro Bowl appearances, and I think even though last year he's tailed off a little bit due to injury, these 2 produce so consistently, and I'm going to be really excited to see what they can do. So this is just what the list is. I'm putting a graphic up of all the receivers ranked from 10 to 1, and feel free to comment with your rankings for wide receiver duos in the NFL. Moving on to soccer, the UEFA Champions League finalists now set. We had two semifinal legs for leg 2 last week, and really exciting. We thought that Villarreal was going to get smoked at home. They put up one hell of a fight in the first half. They rallied, they got an early goal, and actually tied it before halftime. So, but again, Jurgen Klopp deployed his troops, and they really got going in the second half, similarly to the first leg where they were tied at half, and they put on 2 quick goals straight out of halftime, and this time they put up 3 goals in the second half, and they won quite comfortably. Still major respect to Villarreal for getting this far and even providing quite a scare for Liverpool. In the other Champions League matchup between Manchester City and Real Madrid, I said that at the Bernabeu, with Real Madrid having home field advantage, even with them being within 1 goal, I thought that was more than enough for them to be able to overcome that deficit. It actually became a 2-goal deficit after 73 minutes. So Real looked dead in the water. They just didn't have a lot of pace. And then they decided to make a couple big changes. I mean, Luka Modric was subbed out. And they brought in Rodrigo. And just like he did against Chelsea, he came up with 2 really clutch goals, one in the 90th minute and then one in the 91st minute of stoppage time. And these 2 goals provided them with an equalizer to go into extra time. And credit to Real, they just seem like every time they're left for dead. I mean, they faced deficits against PSG with all the talent that they have. They were down a goal against Chelsea, the defending champions, and down 2 goals at one point to Manchester City, who was last year's runner-up. And still, they were able to pull through. And then in extra time, Ruben Diaz came up with it was definitely a silly foul in the box that yielded a penalty. I thought it was really cool that Benzema came up to Rodrigo and said, "Hey, do you want to take this penalty? You'll get a hat trick." And then Rodrigo immediately said, "No, you take it." And I thought that was really selfless. And that's kind of what Real is really built on. They're such a selfless team. They're more than one superstar player. I mean, they had Ronaldo earlier, but even with him, they were more than just Ronaldo. They had so many other talented players, and still today they've been proven that they're more than just Karim Benzema. I mean, yes, he provides the goals, but the team is just a smooth flowing engine, and Benzema executed that from the spot. And they were able to hold off City in extra time, and now they're going into the Champions League final at the end of May. And this sets up a really interesting rematch between Liverpool and Real Madrid. This was they were first played against each other in 2018, and that was definitely under some controversy because Mohamed Salah, who is definitely the best player for Liverpool, he suffered a dislocated shoulder off a very questionable tackle from Sergio Ramos. We all know what his backstory is. He's definitely been a controversial player. That game left such a bad taste, I know, for Liverpool fans. And now they get their shot at Real, albeit it's not with Ronaldo. Probably a less talented team, but this is a far better Liverpool team for sure. From top to bottom, Liverpool has been definitely the most consistent team in this Champions League tournament. They did drop points today in Premier League, which we'll get to that in a little bit, but they've been in such great form, and I'm going to definitely say that they should be favorites going into the final, and we're going to do a preview of that later when closer to that date. Moving on to Premier League action in England, there was a lot of moving parts. Chelsea played Wolves, and they were in a really good spot early on in the second half. It was a 0-0 first half, but then 2 quick goals from Romelu Lukaku, who's been out of form, but he had such a wonderful game, a brace, and just give you some wondering about what could have been if he was able to really gel with the team after December. Put up put them up 2-0, and Wolves got a goal with about 12 minutes to go. I mean, I was feeling a little nervous, but I thought, still not enough time to really overcome it. But at the death, I mean, Wolves was able to tie it, and Chelsea dropped points. And as we look at our top 4 race right now in the Premier League, now Arsenal stands just a single point back, and they will book a spot in the Champions League next year if they win against Tottenham. And Chelsea is still not through to the Champions League just yet. I think if they just get one more win, they do play Leeds United. The thing is, Leeds is fighting to stay in the Premier League, as they're unfortunately in that relegation race right now. So they're going to be playing desperate to stay in the Premier League. So Chelsea's nowhere near out of the woods just yet. A really shaky game for Liverpool yesterday. They came into a matchup against Tottenham as pretty good favorites. I'd say Tottenham's tailed off recently, but of course they just have so much talent up front, and Son Mignon hit such a wonderful goal, and they were actually up going into the latter stage of the second half. Luis Diaz came through again for Liverpool to salvage a point, but them dropping points, and now City winning today against Newcastle United, it leaves them 3 points ahead, and with just 3 matchups to go, albeit that now they are going to be missing Ruben Diaz, they're going to be missing Kyle Walker, and they're just missing some big defenders late. And but the thing is, with the fixtures as they are, I would still say that at this point, City is going to be favorites to win the Premier League. So that chance of getting that quadruple trophy now is in heavy doubt. So we'll see how that goes. Switching gears over to the NBA playoffs, there's been a lot of interesting storylines since my last recording. When I was in Amsterdam, I just got a chance to watch the Bucks take on the Celtics in Game 1. And it looked a little scary for the Bucks to start off. The Celtics were playing really physical, and they just leapt out to about a 9-point lead in the first quarter. But after that, Coach Bud calls a timeout, and he does this pretty frequently to stop runs and stop momentum. I think it's a nice tactic that he does. And to stop the bleeding, and then Milwaukee was able to generate some energy, and they actually closed out the quarter with a 3-point lead, and they didn't really look back after that. Jason Tatum struggled in Game 1, so did Jaylen Brown. And Giannis, even though he didn't shoot efficiently, he provided a triple-double and really put his imprints all over the game, whether it was through defense, rebounding, assisting. That just shows what kind of player he's become. I mean, he's made so many strides. I can't emphasize that enough. Since he's entered the NBA in 2013, I feel that Giannis is actually the best player on the planet right now. I mean, he puts so much impact on so many different aspects of the game, and a true two-way player that we really haven't seen as the best player in the league. Not even LeBron won a Defensive Player of the Year award, and he's now multiple-time MVP. And if he's able to continue this postseason run and even win a second championship and going back-to-back, I think that would really cement him for being the best player. Of course, they have a long way to go, but it's going to be really exciting to see what else Giannis can provide, especially with Chris Middleton being absent. In Game 2 of the Celtics-Bucks series, Boston came out with a lot more energy. They hit a ton of threes, and they ended up routing the Bucks quite handily by 20-plus points. Then the series came back to Milwaukee yesterday, tied 1-1. And then yesterday, the Bucks came back, and they looked really dominant to start off. They lost the lead in the fourth quarter. It got a little shaky. But Giannis made the go-ahead basket to salvage that lead back. Jrue Holiday was able to sink a jumper in the lane, get them up by 3. But with 4.2 seconds left, there was definitely a little controversy towards the end whether Marcus Smart went up to his shooting motion for a three-pointer. I feel like looking at it in full speed, it's definitely up for debate, but I would say that just given that he hacked Marcus Smart very early, you should call that on the floor, and that's really what refs are going to be looking for. So it would just led to such a crazy sequence towards the end where Marcus Smart had to intentionally miss to tie the game. He got his own rebound, put it up short. I think it was. And then there was another attempt at the bucket short. Al Horford was able to get a tip in and get it in. I looked after replay that he had the ball in his hand as the red light was on, so Bucks hang on for the win. Jason Tatum struggled in this game. He was 4 out of 19. I don't think he made a three-pointer. It's definitely been concerning. He's had just such an excellent series against Brooklyn, but really struggled in this series against Milwaukee. Milwaukee's actually provided the worst shooting games for Jason Tatum's playoff career, and it seems like they're doing something right. I have to give credit to Wesley Matthews for really providing stellar defense on Jason Tatum. He had a down year last year with the Lakers, and they decided not to bring him back, but he returned to the Bucks after playing for them in 2020, and he's been a really excellent shooting guard, especially from the defensive standpoint. So shout out to him. He deserves a lot of credit. Drew Holiday has been reliable, stepping up as the number 2 guy in Chris Middleton's absence. And Game 4 is going to be tomorrow, and it's going to be exciting to see if the Bucks can take that commanding 3-1 series lead. The other Eastern Conference matchup was between the Miami Heat. The other Eastern Conference matchup is between the Miami Heat and the Philadelphia 76ers. Obviously, Joel Embiid has missed the first 2 games, and Miami took advantage of that pretty easily. James Harden's just not going to be your number 1 option anymore. He's just not capable of it. Doesn't have the aggression. He's going to be still providing elite playmaking, I must say. He's going to get you 10 assists, but we needed him to be taking at least 25 shots a game. 30 points, having his imprints all over the game, and he's just not capable of that. He doesn't have that first step like I talked about before, and he struggled in both games in South Beach. Miami won both games pretty comfortably, and even not getting their best performances. I know that Jimmy did have a stellar game 1, but they just have so many players that can beat you. And when Tyrese Maxey is kind of your leading scorer, and then Tobias has to provide another scoring punch, you're not going to win that game. But in Game 3 on Friday, Joel Embiid was able to come back, and I really thought it really just comes down to whether he can clear concussion protocol. Players had played with mass pretty quickly after sustaining the injury, but the problem is Joel couldn't even look at his phone. The brightness of his phone is affecting his vision and his ability to really function. So imagine just playing in an NBA stadium with all the lights, this crowd noise and stuff. I don't know how he is able to do it. I mean, there were reports he was out, I believe, 2 days in advance. But I guess he found some way to clear it, and he provided energy. His presence was felt. He didn't have a best offensive game, but him just being there is the heart and soul of Philly's team. And what he did really provided enough juice for them to get away with Game 3 with the victory. And Game 4 is going to be played tonight. We're going to see if the Sixers can recreate that energy in Game 3 and tie the series. Moving out west, the Suns and Mavericks just finished Game 4 at the time of this recording, and the first 2 games looked heavily in Phoenix's way. Them being home favorites, Devin Booker seems to have recovered from that hamstring injury. I don't know exactly how it's been affecting him as of now, but he seems to be doing pretty well. He's moving well, shooting the ball well, even playing pretty good defense, honestly, on guys like Jalen Brunson and occasionally Luka Doncic. They raced out to a 2-0 lead, but as the series transitioned to Dallas, Dallas was able to hold serve and win both their games on their home court. It always goes back to that phrase where a series never really starts until a team wins a game on the road. And both teams have done what they're supposed to do. Luka's provided some really Herculean efforts out in Phoenix, just not getting any help. But at home, those role players feel more comfortable, and this builds them up with some momentum going back to Phoenix for Game 5. So, don't know what it's actually going to translate. Of course, Game 4, it was marred by a lot of either chippy play and fouls from both sides. Luka got hit with a technical, so did Devin Booker. But the real person that struggled, at least in this Dallas stretch, has been Chris Paul. Friday night, he started off the first half with 7 turnovers, not really like himself. And then in Game 4, he just finished with 5 points, 5 assists. The problem was he was marred by foul trouble, and a lot of the stuff that he got caught with were just silly ticky-tack fouls. Like, if you're going to foul out, make him earn it. Like, give him a hard playoff foul as somebody's going to the basket. But it was just silly. Chris is smarter than that. I'm sure he's beating himself up over that, but it's going to take a lot more than just that. And then also on top of it, Dallas, they made 23s, them including, I think, 13 in the first half. That really provided them with enough of a lead and that Phoenix could never really get over at that point. And the other series out west is the Golden State Warriors and the Memphis Grizzlies. Game 1 was really an exciting game. We got a interesting ordeal with Draymond Green being ejected for a flagrant 2 foul. Taking so many looks at it, I think just based on Draymond's track history, especially him pulling the jersey of Brandon Clark down as he's coming, we can say, yes, he was trying to help him up, but that's too late. You pulled the jersey down as somebody's in the air. No control of how they're going to land whatsoever. I felt like a jersey grab is definitely warranted flagrant too. Now, a suspension, that's something else, but I would say that doesn't warrant a suspension. And Draymond came out, hours after, about the podcast and talking about things. And the thing is, he's a highly intelligent player. He knows better. He's just such a cerebral player. He knows inside and out of basketball. He eats, sleeps, and breathes basketball. But the problem is he's always had problems with keeping his emotions in check. And Russ is somebody else who has issues with anger management. I mentioned that before. And I think Draymond falls along those lines. Of course, we know back in 2016, it cost them a championship, and we can't say just the one swipe at LeBron got him suspended and changed the whole thing. Draymond had multiple flagrant fouls, which is why he was suspended. It wasn't that singular flagrant foul that caused him to get ejected. It's the accumulation of flagrant foul points, which you need 4. And the issue was in the 2016 run, he had 2 kicks to the groin of Steven Adams. He flipped the Trailblazer in their conference semifinal series. And then the 4th being the retaliatory unnecessary swipe at the groin area of LeBron. So my thing is, your history, you're hot. And I love that energy, but utilize it right. That's the thing. And the problem is with that, when he's doing this, he's enticing the crowd, just screaming and, amping them up. I just don't know if that's really productive. You got to be smart. You got to know your value. And right now, he has 2 flagrant points. And it could be 2 separate flagrant 1 fouls for the rest of their postseason run, which I anticipate is going to be a very deep postseason run. Draymond's going to have to be careful moving forward. But going back to the game, his ejection fueled Golden State somehow, and this kind of shows what Memphis is really missing. They're a young team, and that's a game that you have to have. Your opponent has lost their Energizer Bunny, their best defender. You're obviously the bigger team too, and still you just couldn't come out and finish the deal. Ja played really well. We can tell that maybe he took too many jumpers. I don't think so. If a guy got it going, the guy got it going from outside. Keep going with that. He did miss a crucial basket inside, but Memphis had their opportunities. It took a lot more than that. But the thing is, veterans know how to make winning plays, and Steph is still a veteran. Steph is a veteran in this league. Klay Thompson, albeit coming off those two big injuries, he played stellar defense on that last sequence in Game 1 after missing 2 free throws that could have really iced the game. And that's really what's been the difference in this postseason for between the Warriors and the Grizzlies. The Grizzlies have issues with closing out games and finishing the deal, and I think this is, like I said, those growing pains that they're going to have to struggle with. Game 2, they were able to respond, but they had to. I mean, I feel like when the road team gets Game 1 or at least one of the two, you've accomplished your mission in that opening sequence of the series, and then you just want to hold serve. And then you just want to hold serve on your own home court in games 3 and 4. And yesterday they were able to reciprocate that. They won quite handedly in San Francisco at the Chase Arena. And now Ja has unfortunately sustained an injury. More controversies come into it where Jordan Poole is now under question for hurting Ja Morant. I don't know if that's necessarily an intentional thing. He's going for the ball. We can talk about the knee pull, but it takes a lot to sprain, which I'm assuming I think is a sprained MCL, to really warrant that kind of sprain or injury. It was a very slight pull. And you can see later in the game, or another sequence in the game, where Ja pulled up on that knee again. And I think that was really the issue that really tweaked that knee, not really the pull on Ja by Jordan Poole. So, and it looks like, according to reports, that he's going to be missing Game 4. And I think at that point, this series is most likely done. Golden State should be able to win Game 4 quite handily. I mean, yes, Dylan Brooks is coming back from suspension, but Ja Morant is the best player for Memphis, and they're going to go as far as Ja Morant is on the team. So I don't really see this series going past anything more than 6 games. The thing is, they may be able to salvage Game 5 if Ja is able to come back for it, but definitely the Warriors are going up 3-1, and we can make the 3-1 jokes as they may be, but this is a different Warriors team for sure. I know they've learned from their mistakes, and I think they're going to close it out in 6 games. And that's it for this episode of Spectator Sports. Thank you so much for joining. If you want to get notifications, hit that bell button to get the latest notifications for the channel. And as always, like and subscribe for more content moving forward. And if you like, comment on your takes about the top 10 NFL duos or anything with this video. Until next time, thanks.